Thanks to COVID-19 and lockdowns and travel restrictions, unfortunately I couldn't get to Magic Hawk at the beginning of the year to carry out the usual winter maintenance. So by the time the restrictions were lifted, time was short, but I was still determined to get through as much work as I possibly could before launching. So we initially had the mast crane down. I had so many things wrong up the mast, and which I tried to correct using top climber gear, but unfortunately I just couldn't fix everything, so we had to have the mast down. But we also wanted to change the rig slightly. We had an inner forestay added 3 years ago, and we decided to change that for a full furler system. So that mast had to come down. Inside the boat I carried on with the internal refurbishment, and I managed this year to sort out the shelf area next to the chart table. I also had a go at the main bulkhead in the saloon, which I've refaced with ashed face ply, so that looks an awful lot better now. I also made a new headlining board for the forepeak, again out of ash face ply, and that looks a lot better than the drooping old headlining that used to be there. On the mast itself I have replaced the nav lights at the head of the mast. The anchor light had failed, even though I swapped the bulb for an LED 3 years ago, and the nav lights themselves were very crazed. I decided to swap the entire unit for a new Aquasignal Series 34, which is integrated LED, and the results on that were excellent, very clear. I also swapped the VHF aerial because there was damage to the cable while the mast was down. I had to send the radar back to Raymarine because again it had failed, and the interface printed circuit board needed replacing in that. At the top of the mast the TV aerial had also failed, but it actually wasn't the aerial itself, it turned out to be a bad connection. The aerial tested okay. But I also replaced the Hawk wind indicator, but the one that was there originally was lost during very high winds a couple of years ago. So everything on the mast, I hope now, is up and running. We had the mast stepped again in June, and we readied the boat for launching. The day before we launched, we left our car at the Beacon slipway where we launch and recover our dinghy, then walked past Conwy Marina to catch the bus to Bangor. When we arrived in Bangor, it was low water, but a lovely day and really hot. However, we had plenty of time to settle down and to perform the last minute jobs which were necessary before we launched, including an engine test and filling up with water. Launch day started off very grey and overcast and was much cooler than the day before. However, the guys from Dickey's turned up quite early, around about 8:15, and moved Magic Hawk around into the slings and proceeded to get her in the water very early indeed. As we left Penryn Dock, I was immediately able to test another upgrade which I'd made to our electronics. I had replaced the old depth transducer with a new one which plugged directly into the back of the multifunction display. The MFD has a sonar module built in, so now can show a picture of the seabed below us. As we approach Gallows Point, where the water gets deeper, this was clearly shown on the display. I'm sure this is going to be really useful, especially in piloted situations. It's the 23rd of June and we've just managed to launch Magic Hawk at 10 to 9 this morning at Dickie's of Bangor. So we're making our way over to our mooring at Conwy now. It's currently just before 10 o'clock. We're just in the channel to go to the south of Puffin Island. We're on high water now, there's plenty of water in this. So we may as well cut the corner and go south of the island. It's a grey old day, it's been mizzling with rain a little bit, but we're out on the water and enjoying it, so good to be back. As we passed Puffin Island, the rain became heavy and got worse the closer we got to Conwy. To make matters worse, there was a swell running from the southwest, which met the boat on the starboard quarter and made us corkscrew along through the water. It wasn't the greatest start to the season, and by the time we reached our mooring we were soaked to the skin, so it was good to tie up and dry off. The following week we returned to Magic Hawk and took her into Conwy Marina. We had the rig tuned and also the installation of the Staysail furler completed. We don't go into the marina very often, so it was quite interesting to see life on the river from a different perspective. This yacht is just passing our mooring on the river. There was also a classic boat launched and rigged while we were there, which was interesting to see. Once the rig tuning was complete, the staysail was hoisted onto the new furler and a few adjustments made to make sure it sat correctly on the track. Once we got back onto the mooring, we familiarised ourselves with the new running rigging layout and made sure that everything was stowed away nicely and tidily. Then it was time for a curry and a beer. It's Friday the 2nd of July. Lovely sunny day. Yesterday we were in Conwy Marina with Tony Jones from TJ Rigging, and we now have a tuned rig and the new furling staysail is operational and kitted up with a sail, so we're just heading out into the bay. It's about 13-14 knots of wind at the moment, so we're going to give it a go. It's the first time that the staysail has been in operation. What do you think of that, Joe? The wind was too light really to give the staysail a proper test, so after checking it over and making sure everything was fine, we rolled it away, then rolled the Genoa out to continue our sail.